When my stepfather was down and out, I gave him everything he could have needed to bounce back. I've never had any debt in my entire life. I've worked 2 jobs just to pay off everything. So imagine my surprise when I'm about to sell my home and I realize, I can't sell it. There's a second mortgage somebody took out, and now I'm hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, and I'm finding out, it was my stepfather after all.
Woke up to a mortgage notice on a house that was already paid off. Yeah, you read it right. The house, my house, the one my mother worked her entire life to pay off so we would not have to deal with this crap. And yet here I am holding a piece of paper that basically says, hey, you owe us thousands of dollars for the loan you never took out. Pay up or lose the home. I had to sit down because I actually felt the floor disappear from under me. My first thought, some bank screw up, some clerical error, maybe a cruel joke from the universe, because let's be honest, my life has been feeling like a rigged game lately. But no, the number, the details, this was real. And the worst part, I think I know exactly who's behind this. Well, it's obviously Gary and Knox. Let's back up a bit. My mother was the strongest woman I've ever known. She was Indian, married to an American, and the outcome was me. But my bio father died in the September 11th attack. He left his home on my mother's name, and then she passed it to me. I never got to know him, but my mother always praised him whenever she mentioned him to me. She raised me as a single mother for most of my life until she met Gary. He came into our lives when I was a teenager, bringing his son Knox with him. And when I say bringing, I mean they showed up like stray dogs who knew my mother had a soft heart and warm house. She loved Gary, I tolerated him, and his son, Knox, was the kid in school you just knew would grow up to be the kind of guy who borrows $20 and never pays you back. Mother believed in second chances, though. She married Gary, and suddenly my house did not feel like my home. It was still hers, though, and she kept everything running. Kept us all together, but after she passed, it was just me and them. And that's when the mooching hit full throttle. I let Gary stay out of respect. Yeah, I did, and my mother would have wanted that, despite every screaming instinct in me saying kick him out. I let him and Knox crash here rent-free, bill-free. Gary had this way of talking smooth, like he missed his calling, and as a used car salesman or something, always had an excuse, always had a sob story. Just until I get back on my feet, kiddo. Knox isn't a bad kid, he's just struggling. Can you help me with a little gas, for groceries, for medicine? And me, like the idiot, I helped. I worked my job, paid my own bills, and kept my life moving while those two turned my mother's house into their personal free ride. Well, Knox, by the way, wasn't just a freeloader, he was a wrecking ball. I lost count of the times I woke up to the sound of him stumbling in at 3 a.m., stinking of alcohol, leaving a mess in the kitchen, slamming doors, knocking over furniture. Every time I brought it up, Gary just shook his head, giving me that boys will be boys nonsense. I gritted my teeth and put up with it, because on some twisted day I felt like I was doing it for Mom. Like letting them stay was my last act of love for her, and then this morning happened. I don't know what possessed me to actually open the mail right away. Normally I'd chuck all the junk in a pile and deal with it later, but sometimes about the envelope made me rip it open, and there it was. A past due mortgage repayment notice for a house that was supposed to be paid off, for a second mortgage I never took out. It didn't make sense. I read it over and over, thinking maybe I was misunderstanding something, but no. The letter was clear as day. Somebody had taken out a loan using my house as collateral, and now the payments were overdue. Well, I felt sick. I logged into my accounts, checked every piece of paperwork I had, looked through my mother's files, and the numbers matched. The bank name was real, the loan amount was massive, life-ruining levels massive. Tens of thousands gone. I don't know how they did it, I don't even know when, but I have a sinking feeling about who. Gary had access to everything. He knew this house inside and out, and he knew my mother's documents. He knew about my documents. Hell, he probably knew more about the paperwork than I did. And I'd been blindly trusting him while he and his son drained me dry little by little. I feel so stupid. How do I not see this coming? How do I let it get this far? I remember all the times Gary would casually ask about the house, where the documents were, and if I had everything in order. He used to laugh it off, saying, you never know with these banks, kiddo. They mess things up all the time, and I would just roll my eyes thinking he was just being paranoid. Now I see it was all for this. He was feeling me out, seeing how much I knew, figuring out just how much he could get away with before I caught on. Oh, and Knox, I wouldn't put it past him to be involved too. He's never had a real job, always between gigs, and a day late on his promise to get his act together. The dude once tried to sell mother's old jewelry at a pawn shop and acted like it was no big deal when I caught him. I should have thrown them out years ago. I should have listened to my gut instinct. Well, now I simply don't know what to do. Do I straight up go to the bank? Do I call my lawyer? Do I confront Gary? Because I swear if I do, I don't trust myself to stay calm. And the worst part is, as I sit here typing this, gripping this letter so tightly, my hands are shaking. They have no idea I know. Knox is passed out in his room, probably sleeping off another night of drinking. Gary's in the living room watching TV like he doesn't have a darn care in the world. Meanwhile, I'm sitting in the house that's no longer mine, trying to figure out if I can still save it, or if they've already taken everything from me. Do I have any legal recourse? Has anybody dealt with this kind of thing before? Because right now I feel like I'm drowning and I don't even know where to start swimming. Update number 1. 2 days, and that's all it took my world to nosedive into another level of betrayal I didn't even think was possible. 2 days since my last post about a lovely little notice in my mailbox. A reminder that my mortgage is overdue hit me like a truck. For everybody who told me to keep calm, take deep breaths, and just handle it like an adult, yeah, I appreciate the sentiment, really, but let's be real here. I lost my absolute mind. Like fully blown unhinged. Because you know what? I've had enough. Enough of being the responsible one, enough of being the safety net, enough of being the one who cleans up after these 2 walking dumpster fires. To the one who said that I should have seen this coming, oh, you bet your arse I should have. Hindsight's 20/20, and looking back, the red flags were practically tap dancing in front of my face. But no, I wanted to believe that they were my family, that family doesn't cheat on each other, and I ignored the missing jewelry, ignored the shady credit card changes, just ignored the way Knox and Gary put on their "but we're just good old bros" act when I was around. Turns out I was the idiot for giving them the benefit of the doubt. And now 2 days ago, I woke up to an overdue mortgage notice because these 2 entitled gremlins decided my financial security was a cute little piggy bank for their nonsense. Because apparently Gary thought he was some financial guru who could flip a crap investment into a fortune overnight. Yeah, spoiler alert, he didn't. Well, so I confronted them. Full-on public meltdown, and do you know what this working bag of audacity did? He laughed. Right in my face like I was the dumbest person alive for daring to believe in things like trust and basic human decency. Sweetheart, what are you going to do? Call the police? Good luck proving it. The way I nearly blacked out from pure unfiltered rage, I felt my teeth grinding so hard I'm sure I took a year off my lifespan. And then, because my life is a never-ending circus of BS, in stumbles Knox, reeking of whiskey and flashing a brand new rollie. He absolutely cannot afford, looking like the human embodiment of a regretful life decision, mocking me, scoffing at me. Oh please, you're too soft to kick us out. We're family. Oh, he slurred, slinging an arm around Gary like they were the Wolf of Wall Street duo. And guys, that's when it hit me. These aren't just reckless, bumbling idiots, these are thieves. Entitled, remorseless thieves who think that I'm too much of a pushover to actually do something about it. Well, so now, I'm sitting in a dingy lit cafe, drinking an overpriced latte I 100% should not have splurged on, while my bestie, oh bless her unhinged internet-sleuthing soul, is going full conspiracy mode, pulling up fraud laws, property liens, in ways I can legally yeet these 2 clowns out of my life for good. She's muttering about forensic accountants and bank holds while I'm just sitting here trying not to launch my phone across the room. Because let's be real, I'm royally, catastrophically, absolutely screwed. Not just in an oh no, a minor inconvenience. We're talking like full-blown, life-ruining, potentially homeless by next month kind of. My credit in the gutter, my savings drained, and me sitting here barely registering the urge to commit a felony, realizing my own stepfamily has gutted my finances and left me for dead. Well, but you know what? Let them think that they've won. Let them believe that I'm just going to cry into my pillow and forgive them like I always do because I'm done. They want to play games, cool, let's play. But I don't play fair. You know that feeling when you're past the point of crying and you just go numb? Yeah, that's where I'm at. My hands are shaking from sheer adrenaline and caffeine overloaded while my friend is throwing out suggestions that range from call the police to hire a hitman. Kinda kidding on that one. Apparently, I do have legal options. Freezing the account, locking down my credit, maybe even slapping them with some fraud charges if I can gather enough evidence. But let's be real, that takes time. And time is not something that I have in abundance right now. So, the bank is not going to give a crap about my sob story when they come knocking for the mortgage payment. Meanwhile, Gary and Knox are probably out there right now, throwing back drinks, laughing about how they played me for a fool. They probably think that I'll cool off in a day or two and come crawling back with some BS excuse about how family is family and we should stick together. Newsflash, that's not happening. I don't care if I have to sell every piece of furniture in that house and couch there for a while, but those two are not getting away with this. My friend just nudged my laptop towards me and said, "Write the darn post. Let the internet rage for you." So here I am, rage posting in a cafe, hoping the combined fury of the internet will manifest some kind of divine retribution, or at the very least that someone out there has a game plan I haven't thought of yet. I'm open to suggestions, guys, because right now, I'm one stressor away from making the news. Update number 2. 3 weeks of silence, 3 weeks of biting my tongue so hard it nearly bled. 3 weeks of watching those two jackals prance around thinking they won. Knox with his smug little smirk. Gary with that self-satisfied "I've got it all under control" face. 3 weeks of them treating my quiet as weakness, as if I would just roll over and accept the debt they tried to dump on me. Well, spoiler alert, I wasn't soft, I was patient, and they had no idea what was coming. See, when they were busy counting their stolen money, I was busy assembling my army. No yelling, no cursing, no dramatic confrontation, just pure cold strategy. Call it instinct, but something about the sign in the document screamed that it was not mine. So I hired a forensic accountant, Diana, an absolute beast with numbers and a bloodhound for fraud. She combed through the mortgage documents, lined them up next to my actual signature from past legal paperwork, and what do you know? A beautiful, undeniable case of forgery. Every single stroke, every little inconsistency, documented, highlighted, and compiled in a darning report. Well, then came Elliot, a lawyer my mother used to have on her contact list for legal kind of stuff. Ruthless, precise, and about as sympathetic as a guillotine. The moment he got Diana's report, he moved like a shark scenting blood, filling to freeze Gary's bank account so fast that the man probably choked on his morning coffee. That alone must have had his soul leave his body, but oh, we weren't stopping there. Elliot has notified the bank and relevant authorities about the fraud, which meant 2 things. Gary and Knox were about to be put up on neck and legal trouble. And 2, the mortgage scam they pulled wasn't just a bad decision, it was a financial death sentence. Because here's the thing. Fraudulent mortgages don't stick. I wasn't liable to pay a single cent. The bank had no claim on me because the whole thing was built on crime. So while those 2 clowns thought they were hooking me into financial chokeholds, I was watching the walls close on them instead. Now I wait. The official notice is coming any day, and the moment it does, I'll be slamming that legal hammer down so hard they won't know what hit them. Gary and Knox wants to play dirty. Fine. But they forgot when you scam someone, make sure that you aren't smarter than you. Oops. Too late. And the waiting is the hardest part, but also the sweetest. Every single day, knowing that they're walking around obliviously, thinking that they still hold the upper hand, makes me want to laugh. They probably think that I'm stewing in a corner, stressed and panicked, and desperately scrambling for a way out. But no, I'm sipping tea, reading emails from Elliot, and watching their world inch closer to a total collapse. Diana's reports didn't just prove the forgery, it opened a whole can of worms I have not even considered. Turns out Gary had a history of financial mistakes that were suspiciously self-serving. Old business deals that left his partners broke while he worked away with a fatter bank account. Oh, Knox, the golden boy who never lifted a finger in his life, was no better. Bank statements showed shady transactions, money being moved around in ways that screamed tax fraud. Oh, they weren't just thieves, they were serial con artists. And Elliot, he had the time of his life dissecting their crimes. The man was practically giddy as he laid out the legal pathways that we could take to absolutely demolish them. Freezing the bank accounts was just one step. The fraud alert meant the bank would conduct their own investigation, and let me tell you, banks do not take kindly to fraud. That meant not only was Gary and Knox about to lose access to their ill-gotten funds, but they were also looking at potential criminal charges. Once the bank flagged them, the IRS would likely take a closer look. And from what Diana found, they would not like what they saw. Oh, and me. I just had to sit back and wait for the system to do its thing. I had done my part, the trap was set, and the walls were closing, and all I had to do was let them think that they were still winning until they found the final blow. I imagine the moment the notice arrives will be a work of art. Gary realizing his accounts are frozen, his money's gone, and he can't even access a dime to try to fix the situation. Knox, confused and furious, demanding answers, only to realize Daddy Dearest is just as messed up as he is. The realization dawns on them that they aren't just losing the payday, they're losing everything. Because that's the thing about fraud, it doesn't just go away. It doesn't get smoothed over with an apology, it stays and it sticks and it follows you. And once the bank sends me that official notice confirming the fraud, I'm making sure that they drowned in the consequence. They thought I was an easy target. They thought I would break, give in, accept the debt, and move on while they ripped off the benefits. They had no idea who they were dealing with. Because I don't just fight back, I destroy it. Stay tuned, guys, because war is on. Update number 3. There's a special kind of silence that settles when karma finally slaps someone in the face, and it's not very loud. It's not some dramatic movie moment with swelling background music, it's just there, hanging in the air like the smell of burnt toast after a dummy forgets they left the stove on. And trust me, I let the silence stretch when I handed Gary his eviction notice. 2 weeks. That's how long it took for the bank to finally get back to me after I filed my appeal. 2 weeks of knowing deep in my soul that I was right, that I wasn't crazy, that the second mortgage was absolute BS, that I did not own a single cent, because newsflash, I never signed for it. But guess who did? Gary. Although forging my signature, but still it was him who was using the money. Yeah, and now the lender was demanding full payment, not from me, but from him. The moment I got the official confirmation, I moved fast. No hesitation, no doubts, no second guessing. First order of business, making sure both Gary and Knox get yeeted out of my house legally and permanently. I give them 30 days to back up their crap because honestly, that was generous, considering they had stolen from me and put my home on the line like some half-baked Ocean's 11 scheme. Gary went ghost white when I handed him the papers, and oh, it was delicious. The way his mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water, like he was trying to pull some new lie out of his sleeve but couldn't. He didn't even argue, just stood there stunned, probably running through his mental checklist of scans and realizing that for once he had nothing. Knox, though, whole different story. This dude, and the audacity to step up like he was about to get in my face, like intimidation was gonna work, as if I had not been preparing for this exact moment since the first time I knew my crap was missing. My best friend was sitting right there in the living area, phone out, recording everything, and recording helped me put a restraining order on Knox. One wrong move and he was getting a one-way trip to jail. Not that it mattered, he wasn't the one needed to be scared. Gary thought that he could stall the eviction, thought that he could cry about it, play the victim, get the distant relatives involved to make me look like some heartless monster kicking him out into the streets. Spoiler alert, guys, it didn't work. 3 days ago, I worked my happy butt straight into law enforcement with a full folder of documents. Every fraudulent signature, every sketchy bank statement, every piece of evidence providing that Gary had committed felony mortgage fraud. Yeah, let that sink in. He didn't just lose his free ride. He didn't just lose the home he tried to steal under my nose. He's looking at prison time. And now I wait. And guess what? I'm really good at waiting. Gary thought that he could play me. He bet his entire life on the idea that I would not fight back, that I would be too scared, too tired, too darn nice to do anything, that I would just let it go, like I always did before. Well, he bet wrong. I may be half Indian, half American, but one thing runs in both sides of my blood. You don't get to betray me and walk away unscathed. Knox and Gary thought that they could rewrite my future with some forged signature and a whole lot of misplaced confidence. But see, the thing about messing over someone who's already been through hell, they don't break easily, they rebuild. They fight back, and when they do, it's not some fairy tale ending for the thieves, it's a reckoning. So yeah, that silence, it's settling in now. It's the sound of their plan crumbling, the sound of their time running out, and me, I'm just enjoying the view. Final updates. Have you ever had one of those moments when you realize in real time that you won? Not just some small win, not just a temporary victory, but a full-blown no coming back from this, I'm the final boss kind of win. Well, that's where I'm at. And let me tell you, the view from here absolutely chef's kiss. It's been 3 weeks since those idiots left my home for good and now facing the fraudulent charges. Right now, I'm in my backyard, done with the planting of my late mother's favorite lilies. The air is crisp, the house is behind me, and finally complete. And finally mine. And for the first time in years, there's no lingering stench of betrayal clinging to the walls. The step-family circus wrapped up, and for once, the final act played out in my favor. See, Gary thought that he was smart. He thought he could take what was mine, play the victim, spin his little sob story, and skate by without consequence. And for a while, he almost had all the relatives who kept calling and messaging me, reflecting their disappointment, how my act must have hurt my late mother's soul, and how Gary and Knox were my true, only family. But the moment I shared the bank notice on the family group, they absolutely spiraled, literally, gasping and stunned at Gary and Knox's audacity. And next I knew that both were kicked out from the relatives' home where they had taken them in pity. Oh, and the bank was so brutal. They did their job absolutely spectacularly by exposing every bit of their fraud. You want to know what happened to Gary's credit score? Absolutely garbage. His name blacklisted from every single major lender, and the bank even seized his remaining assets, garnished his wages, and wiped out whatever was left in his savings. And when he and Knox decided they were not leaving my house willingly, well, law enforcement took care of it. Nothing quite like watching the very people who thought they could steal from you get dragged out, kicking and screaming like the entitled children they are. Well, now, Gary's couch surfing. Yep. With some kind of buddies of his, drowning in debt, taking rounds of court, still trying to convince anybody who will listen that none of this is his fault. Well, you guys want to know what happened to Knox? Knox, jobless, homeless, and just as insufferable as ever. Only now nobody's buying the tough guy act when he's begging for a handout. Turns out all that talk doesn't mean much when you've got nowhere to sleep. My bestie recommended to slam Knox with charges of stealing, but I wanted to let them deal with the mountain that they had fallen in, and if they try to hurt me again, well, I guess I have a backup weapon, don't I? So, oh, and me. I'm debt-free. House secure. Finally, I can find myself peace. The locks have been changed, the wall was repainted, every single trace of them gone. Gary, of course, tried to reach out. Pathetic, really. Some half-baked, last-ditch attempt to make amends, as if a week I messed up could undo years of scheming. My lawyer handled it, cease and desist, of course. No more texts, no more emails, no more anything. The last message I ever sent him, "You laughed when I confronted you. Who's laughing now?" And just like that, guys, I blocked him.